Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Teal, Season 9, Episode 3. I'm Liron Cohen.
I'm Mimi Torchin.
And we are Lady Parts TV, and welcome to another discussion of Wentworth. Thank you so much, Randy, for sponsoring this episode.
Yes, Randy, thank you so much. Mwah.
By the way, if you know that you want to, at some point, sponsor an episode, you don't have to wait until the week of. You can email me anytime and let me know so I can line you up. And then the next time we need an episode funded, I'll just email you and we can get it going. So people can get their emails going as soon as possible. And by the way, don't forget that everybody who sponsors an episode automatically goes into our raffle to get a Talking Teal vlog with us. And the more episodes you buy, the more entries you get for the raffle. So you might actually end up getting 2 for the price of 1.
Very clever.
Actually, 2 for the price of less than 1, because we made Talking Teal cheaper this season. Let me just say this before we get into the episode. We're doing things a little differently this year because Sundays I have an engagement every week. So in the past we used to work on Sundays from morning till night and just get the episode going. This season, you may have noticed that our episodes are coming out earlier on Sundays. That's because we do all of the work on Saturday. And so when I say the deadline is noon Saturday, I mean noon. At 12:00, I shut the thing down and I go and I sit with this and I put the whole thing together. So even if you email,
imagine what she does.
It's a lot of work, and so I really have to get it done fast so that we can shoot and edit and post and everything before the end of the day or at the latest Sunday morning. So I'm so sorry if you get your email in even 10 minutes late. It's not, I don't even see it because by then I'm not by the computer, I'm sitting with all my papers. So on a regular basis, it's always great when you manage to get the emails really early so that I have the chance to work on them throughout the week. I know that a lot of you can only work on them on Saturday, which is why I get up, I get up in the morning on Saturday and I know that I'm going to get most of the emails in that little 3-hour interval, but definitely no later, okay? Thank you. I apologize, but it has to be this way this year.
Yes, and we're not even going to rush today, even though the women's finals for the U.S. Open are on.
That's right. But we'll be
they haven't started yet. I think they might be. I think it starts at 3 or 4. I can't remember. It's
at 4. It's at 4. And we'll be done in plenty of time.
Done in plenty of time.
So, episode 3, The Ties That Bind. And it seems like this is what they did this episode. Really just kind of tie it all in to set us up for the following episode.
They set up tighter alliances and...
yeah, definitely. This was definitely a setup episode.
Yes, I felt that way also.
It was written by John Ridley, the wonderful John Ridley. Yes.
I was going to say it was more than just a setup.
No, but
because a lot happened.
A lot
didn't happen.
Right. Did that make sense?
It'll make sense to them.
It was directed by Roger, I guess, Hodgman. I think it's Hodgman, who apparently is Pamela Rabe's husband. Way to go.
Wow.
And here are a couple of your overall opinions of the episode. Rachel says, the writers put multiple devices in place to set up what is to come. Drug tests for everyone, restraint stations, lawsuits, fake couples, and one tiny little camera has now gone into play.
As opposed to many cameras that are moved.
Oh, wait, I have a whole discussion about that. Wait. David?
David says, a slower but more emotional episode this week for me. I do love when the show delves into character psyches and allows us to glimpse vulnerability.
And by the way, that's John Ridley. I mean, that's always John Ridley's forte.
I'm with you there completely. For me, that has always been what the show has excelled at. I do love the big twists and the epic showdowns, but give me a quiet conversation in the middle of the night between 2 yearning souls over any of the bells and whistles. Very beautifully put, David.
It's true, although I think that what you're saying now, and it kind of, I felt that way, but I didn't feel that way, and I think the reason is because the characters are not as moving to me as in previous years when we had, family gatherings and stuff.
The families are very small this year.
And
in past
less
years.
and less made out of less characters that we're interested in, but more on that in just a minute. And Jane?
Overall, this episode didn't inspire me. But you said she wrote a very long email.
Yes.
So it must have inspired you a little bit.
Well, it inspired a lot of cynicism, sarcasm.
A lot of kvetching. Similar feeling to last week. I feel like the air traffic controllers are positioning all the aircraft for landing.
Okay, so you can ignore this part.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Jane actually ended up using the air traffic controller metaphor throughout her email. It was very fun for me to read, but it was a little hard to incorporate into this whole episode. So thank you, Jane, for giving me a laugh, and I'm sorry that I'm not including it here.
So she says, does that make sense? Moving game pieces on the board, reminding me there are too many of them. Nobody is getting the proper time to develop except for Joan. While there were some beautiful nuggets of acting amongst the usuals, Mari, Lou, and Joan, the rest was filler, in my opinion. They need to land some planes. Wasted episodes. It's kind of harsh, Jane. I'm not sure I feel exactly that way, but I do know what you're saying.
I mean, I think
it's a lot of setup.
It's a lot of setup, exactly. It's a lot of setup. Okay, so...
But also a lot of things have happened.
You mean a fight for top dog?
How many fight for top dog? How many people have died in 3 episodes?
No.
I mean,
but this episode, nobody died.
No, nobody
Thank
died.
goodness.
Miraculously. Fortunately for Katrina's natural...
padding.
Yes, Boomer's natural padding. No major organs were damaged.
So this was supposed to be Rita's big entrance, re-entry into the prison episode, and she was largely benched for the episode, and I do mean that literally. We have new restraining stations. How cruel and disgusting is that?
Anne is a savage.
So Lauren explains, just in case we didn't know.
The comment about the stocks is a throwback to Australia's colonial history, where convicts were put into wooden stocks, legs or head and arms outside, to punish them. I think I was just going to say, not just Australia, I think American colonies had similar. Public punishment and restraining prisoners is cruel. And yes, we did have stocks, and they were during early colonial period, during the 1600s, and they're wooden, and you stick your head through them, and you stick your arms through them. And
thankfully, Anne hasn't gone that far.
I think everybody knows
just
that.
In case.
But I did feel like demonstrating.
Well, just in case. I mean, we do have viewers from all over the world.
That's
Who knows?
True.
Rachel says the restraining stations are nothing more than a handy little plot device to detain folks when needed. It keeps the inmates who have been restrained in a position to know things are going down, but unable to do anything about them. And by the way, there's supposed to be a 2-hour limit. I think Rita spent the majority of the day on that bench. I don't think that they have a 2-hour limit. It's a hawk.
It's a hawk. Baby, go away. There's a little nuthatch there that has to go hide. Go hide.
I do find it hard to watch. I find it they're really pushing me. They're really pushing me with this.
It's just, they're just going to make Anne so horrible. I hope she's going to die.
And again, I mean, I know that they said that she's implemented it in other prisons that she oversees, but I just don't know how she can get away with all this shit. I don't know that this system is privatized.
Punishment. It's not right.
Right. So this sort of thing is the thing that started turning me off. Orange is the New Black. So I don't know.
Also, I still don't know how she got away with getting rid of a protection unit. Prison 101.
Yes. Well, again, this is what Rachel said about they cheat.
Yeah.
So let's start with Anne, since why not? Let's get it over with. Rachel says, Anne not bothering to park her car between the lines make me think of people who don't return their shopping carts to the proper spot. They're just selfish bastards who think the world revolves around them, and that is Anne Reynolds in a nutshell.
That is a very interesting observation, I must say.
David
says, I do secretly enjoy Anne. Well,
it's
not a secret anymore, David. I know a lot of people don't like her, but I find women in power make the best villains. Well, all right, that's an interesting thought. And she's wielding her...
It's actually the least interesting because they have the power already. So what's interesting about that?
Well, everybody in power, most women are less... brutal in power than men are.
No, but I mean, it's not interesting because she already has the power. She's just abusing it, so it's annoying.
She's using the power in horrible ways.
But I don't think it makes the best villains when you already have the power. It's easy to use it. It's actually more interesting when you have to come up with original and creative ways. But forget about it. Yes. She's
wielding her power to terrible effect. I don't believe she was always this cutthroat. Her trauma has made her hate criminals. Well, who likes criminals, David? She has no tolerance for those that break the law, except herself.
Except herself. And when she goes into Lou's slot, and Lou says something about, she killed the person I loved, she had to die, tell me you wouldn't do the same thing. And she didn't.
No, of course not. We know that she would.
So, has she killed? Will she kill?
Well,
Was this foreshadowing? Was this supposed to tell us that there's a secret
Judy.
in her path? I'm fine with that. I mean,
yeah, me too.
They can take each other out as far as I'm concerned.
Antagonizing the women is not a smart move, especially Judy. Sometimes it's better to be loved than feared. Look how warmly the prisoners were with Vera when she returned, because she was always on their side and wanted to make their lives better. Anne just wants to hurt and torture them. Her newest device is designed to break the women's spirit, making them more compliant and easier to control.
I don't know if you make people more compliant that way. I think she would make some angry people.
I have a feeling that this will have the opposite effect, especially on Judy.
Although she usually manages to stay away from...
And none of these people are going into those stops gently, that's for sure.
Yeah. Jane has an observation. Solution for Anne's problems? Replace the CCTV cameras and half the shit that has happened won't. So Mimi and I had to at some point laugh because Wentworth got jokes. When Will comes out, and sees Rita sitting there, all kind of misty-eyed, behind them there's a sign that says, "Pay attention, you're under surveillance at all times," or something like that. I was like, really? Really?
I mean, it's sort of like Animal Crossing and Deer Crossing. And when I was a little girl, I used to say, how do they know that this is where they're supposed to cross? I was very young when I said that, but
14.
That's sort of like the be careful of the cameras. They don't know.
However, Rachel has an interesting idea.
Rachel always has an interesting idea.
I have to say though, we did say it last week too.
Oh. That tiny little camera is obviously going to play a big role in what's to come. The gratuitous shots we start with are nothing more than a reminder that it's there. Stop and think about it. There are a million ways that little camera could rip everything wide open. I'm betting the camera gets confiscated and ends up recording one of Anne's tantrums before it's over. It's probably a lot more than that, but this little camera should probably get a credit at the beginning of the show for the role it will play, or an and the camera.
Yes, and there would be no doubt which camera it is since the rest of them are useless.
Exactly.
Jane
They're
says,
probably not even connected at this point. Those fake ones.
Yes,
we had one
cameras.
We had one in one of my apartment buildings. I said, "Oh, Arthur, we got a camera." He said, "Not connected."
I just want to throw this in because I definitely see her point. Jane says, "I do not like the prison porn storyline at all. That opening scene brought out a 'oh, come on, really?' out loud. I don't want to blame it on the all-male writer-director team, but I'm thinking about it."
Even Boomer thought it was.
Well, no, she didn't look at it as exploitative. She just looked at it as not interesting
as
enough.
Being boring, exactly. But there are people out there who would love that.
Yes, but it was gratuitous, I felt.
Of course.
So I want to start with the highlight of the episode to me, Lou blowing up on Anne. That was a golden moment. I enjoyed it thoroughly, all 5 seconds of it. Seeing the frightened look on Anne's face was just delicious.
Glorious.
I had so much fun. So Rachel says, Anne knows she has pushed Lou over the edge now, but I think Anne may be arrogant enough to believe her alliance with Lou is still intact. We'll see. And not only is she arrogant enough, I mean, she's shown us that she's arrogant enough. She actually called Reb her girlfriend in front of her. Thinking
on purpose.
Yes, I mean, thinking what? Thinking that she's so compliant and placid? Really?
Yeah, that was really stupid of her, and it really shows that she's just a sadist.
Well, she's stupid.
And she's dumb.
She's arrogant.
Was Lou in handcuffs? Was she restrained anyway? No, she was right there. She could have just slit her throat.
She just thinks she's so powerful. These people are so beneath her. Denise?
And certainly rubbed Lou the wrong way by calling Reb her girlfriend. What a scene that was. I think that might be Lou's downfall as far as being top dog. Lou does things without thinking them out. Plus, she's angry. Those two don't mix with being top dog. I'm hoping that this reign of Lou Kelly top dog is a short-lived one. Me too. I cannot stand Lou.
So right before we get into Lou, David says Reb's death is a direct result of Anne closing the protection wing, and Lou finally sees that Anne has been using her too. It's the people in authority who are the ones responsible for her hardships. Okay, so Lou is getting more and more reason to just want to kill everybody and just torch the place and burn it all down to the ground. So I'm kind of torn about it because on one hand we are seeing a little bit more, a few more interesting shades in Lou's colorful spectrum, but mostly they are really determined to just make her into
red.
Yes.
Mostly she's red.
Yes. Okay, what does Denise have to say?
I get that she's grieving over Red, but I am tired of the crying with her. We need to move forward with this storyline because move forward with this storyline because for as short as the season is, I don't want to spend any more time on Lou's constant sadness over the death of her partner. I don't want to seem insensitive because it's obvious she loved Reb, but truly, I never really liked them as a couple. Now I think it's very clear that Reb was only a catalyst for Lou's character. Obviously, Reb was a total cipher. Yeah.
Lauren says, I know I should feel empathetic to Lou's crying each night about Reb, but I feel nothing for this character. I just tremendously dislike her.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think you're all in agreement. I also have Robin.
But she's so repulsive. They
haven't made her complex enough. They made her very straightforward, bully, monster, one note. Well, so that's the problem.
She has actually 3 notes. She cries at night.
I think that's what they're doing.
She rages.
I think they think that now they're showing us more of her, of her range.
She rages or she taunts. That's it. That's the only 3 things she ever does. Now she doesn't even have tenderness now or humor. She's just a bully, a crybaby.
Crybaby. I mean, she did lose.
Well, no. Wait, a crybaby and what was my third? Oh, and a mean, miserable bitch. Now, in real life, no one would ever say, in 2 days, oh, get over it. And if they did, they'd really be assholes.
Yeah.
But this is drama, and we have a limited amount of time, and I don't care.
Well, I actually think that her crying was more about Mari for us than about her. We'll talk about.
You mean as a setup for Mari?
Well,
because she was
the 2 times that we heard Lou cry this episode. One time we heard her cry, but actually the camera was on Mari and talking about how she created a monster and what she's done and blah, 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 talking to Ferguson. And the second time she cries, Mari comes into the cell and they talk and she hugs her. So I actually think Lou crying is not really as much about Lou this episode as it is about Mari.
Again, it's a setup.
Yes, and Mari actually is very interesting this episode. We'll get to her in a minute.
She's very interesting this season.
Yeah. There's a lot to say about her.
Subtly interesting.
In a minute.
Oh, okay.
Robin says, had Lou not been such a coward and fought Boomer fist to fist, Boomer could have taken her down, or it would have been at least a close fight. I can't believe no one saw that as a weakness on the part of Lou, that she needed a shiv against someone without one to win the fight. I don't think anybody cares particularly if it's a weakness because all they know is that she'll do anything.
Well, I call foul. I think that's foul.
Who cares?
I think that
you think there are rules.
I think that Boomer showed that she was fair and showed
Lou
courage.
Is not fair.
No, Lou is a monster.
Many people in prison did not get there by being fair or by playing
fair. The
fair.
person who is going to lead you to have a sense.
But this is not about wanting. What they wanted was Boomer. They gave her all the puddings. They made their vote clear. This was not about what they wanted. This was about
they
gave her all the puddings, and she ended up with one on her head.
They should have called foul then on.
But that's not how it works. Their vote, their opinion, did not count. It was a fight for who's going to rule. You can either get it democratically, or you can get it by force, and she got it by force. So by that point, what they wanted meant nothing.
Well, I think it was then an obvious setup because Boomer shouldn't have done it.
So David actually has something interesting that I wasn't aware of about the relationship between Boomer and Lou.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Lou's relationship with Boomer is fascinating. I genuinely don't think they hate each other. Boomer sees Lou as a loud and frightened bully. Lou sees Boomer as weak and intellectually disabled. But I think there's an element of respect there. Lou, leaning down and kissing her, telling her, "Well done, it was a good fight," spoke volumes about the relationship to one another.
I actually saw that more as an arrogant,
Me too. Me
patronizing.
Too. That's how I felt.
But
it's good. But
and
it's okay.
and especially because of what he goes on to say.
They would otherwise be quite passive to one another if it weren't for both of them being propelled into this fight for control. It takes a smart woman to get to the top. That's the difference between Lou and Boomer. Boomer wants to fight fair. Lou just wants to be top dog, whatever it takes. She used some really underhanded tactics to ensure no one could interfere with the fight.
Look at Lola.
What's she doing? Oh, look at her. She's so precious.
Oh my God, I have to take a picture of that.
So cute.
Okay, so this was the Lou side. Now let's transition to Boomer's side. And Kathy says, Boomer would have won that fight had she known how ruthless and dirty Lou was. She should have, actually.
Yeah, she should have.
Boomer just wanted an honorable and old-fashioned fist fight, even though she could have taken advantage of Lou after she dropped the shiv. That's exactly why she would have not made a good top dog. She can't fight dirty. Not when, maybe in the old days, when Allie was top dog, she didn't fight dirty, but she didn't have those kinds of radical elements in the prison that she needed to fight dirty for or with.
Except when she cut off Lou's finger. Which
Exactly,
we
that's what
never
I'm
hear
saying.
about, which we never...
No.
Have we ever even noticed it?
No, I don't think she ever had any problems with that, with a pinky.
Does she even have a Band-Aid or a stump?
She did for a
or,
no, a stump.
Oh.
No, they reconnected, they reattached it.
Oh, really? You think they would bother in
Yes.
prison reattaching a piece of a finger?
A piece of finger, it was entire finger.
Please.
They wouldn't have just let her stay maimed if they could have. Oh, come on, that's too cruel. Okay, Lauren.
I think everything about that fight and the lead up to it shows how Boomer has changed throughout the series. One thing that has not changed is her loyalty to her crew and being on the right side. I was surprised that she decided to stand against Lou because of the previous episode and her hope to be pregnant. When Bee needed her, she stood down due to this very reason. But this time, Boomer saw that she was really the only one in a position to stand against Lou, and despite her fears, she took on the responsibility to try and step up. Fuck Lou and how easily she arranged for Boomer to be alone and called the fight early. And those pathetic cameras that are so easily turned. I knew the minute Boomer threw down the shiv to make it a fairer fight that Lou was going to do her dirty. I pretty much screamed, "No, Boomer!" This shows Boomer's growth as a human being. The fact that she would make it a fair fight when she could have won against Lou by keeping the shiv. I don't know about you, but I just couldn't cope watching Boomer get stabbed in the side several times by Lou. What an evil woman. Why did she have to stab Boomer multiple times? She had clearly won. Katrina said in an interview that in her mind, back in earlier days in prison when Lou Kelly was inside and top dog, that between her and Kate Box, they had decided that Boomer and Lou were friends. I think Lou does respect that Boomer stood up and took on the fight, but Lou has a total win-at-all-costs attitude and does not care who it is who crosses her path.
Right, so that's interesting to know their insight that they thought they were friends. Maybe that's part of the kiss on the forehead that she was like, well, I didn't want to hurt you. And apparently, because I thought that it had to be a fight for the death, but it doesn't make sense because then every time somebody becomes top dog, they'll have more time added to their sentence. So I guess it just, whoever wins, somebody has to forfeit, somebody has to concede.
I think that Lou was really cowardly because she is big enough and strong enough to have fought with Boomer without being at a disadvantage.
Well, she doesn't play fair.
No, she's a monster.
And obviously she doesn't care if it looks like...
She's
if
despicable.
she has a goal and she doesn't care about what people think about her.
You know, Joan was despicable, and I hated her for the fact that she was one note, but at least she was interesting. Lou is just a taunting bitch.
David?
Allie put a lot of pressure on Boomer by declaring her top dog, and that weight of expectation informed many of her decisions this episode. She is terrified to fight. She doesn't want to do it. There's a huge reluctance to be top dog, even freely offering the position to Rita. But in the end, she does what she thinks she has to for her prison family. Her deep loyalty to them and her respect for the prison rules won't allow her to throw in the towel no matter how much she wants to. The rules are the only thing Boomer knows. They're that one constant that helps her make sense of the world. I think after this, she's just going to choose happiness. She's through with being the bench. She wants only to be happy now.
And most of you are thinking that now that she's in hospital, that's when they'll find out that she's pregnant. To me, it would be just too easy.
Fast,
exactly. It would just be way too easy from one time. I mean, many women can tell you that oftentimes it takes a lot more than that. Jane says, I feel like Boomer's character is becoming pathetic. Something more than having a baby better come out of this character exploration and ending. Back in the day, she would have won that knife fight. Instead, we thought, why is she so scared? Well, she's scared because I think she's tired, too. She's lost so many people. She's smarter now. She has more life experience. She has more to lose in terms of people. She doesn't want this anymore, and I don't blame her.
And I think having to mercy kill Liz took
really
a lot
broke
out
her.
of her.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's make a tiny detour into Ruby.
Oh, okay.
Lauren?
Although I like the way Boomer and Ruby interact, I just find it super stupid that Ruby is constantly willing to put herself in harm's way. One punch could kill her. We all have not forgotten that. Her sister has risked so much for her. Her loyalty to Boomer is great, but she really doesn't seem to care for her own safety, does she? Or what others have sacrificed to keep her safe.
Right, so on one hand, I enjoy seeing Ruby being the best friend. I thought it was really great of her to step up and all that. But on the other hand, it's one thing to be in the laundry room and step up and say I'm her second. Okay, even though that's not very smart in terms of her health, it's at least kind of stand-up-ish. But to just walk around thinking she's going to shiv Lou, and a week later she's going to shiv her again. And I mean, it's just stupid and dumb. And I was wondering, what the hell were they trying to achieve with that? To either make us like Ruby better, or to make Rita think, oh, now I really have to sacrifice anything and everything because this girl cannot be here on her own. She does not know what to make, how to make decisions.
But wasn't Rita in the stocks?
No, Rita at that point was not. She actually stopped her from doing, something stupid. But also it was, so Ruby could tell her, I'm still fighting. I haven't lost my fight. And what about you? I found that whole thing contrived and unnecessary and silly.
It bothered me.
Okay, so let's wrap it up by going back to Lou, and Lauren says,
Lou's decision to kill every officer and Wentworth official and to rip the prison apart does sound like an interesting storyline.
Does it though? Does it
to me, Lauren.
It sounds very let's just take a sledgehammer and rather than let's do something
that's
more
Lou.
with a little more finesse.
Lou has no subtlety.
But the writers could have given her a little bit.
Yes, but they didn't, did they?
Yeah.
I definitely like her. I like that she turned on Anne and will now tread her own path.
Right. So if she had said Anne was the one who closed the protection unit, I'm going to go after her, that's one thing. To say I'm going to go after all of them, every single one of them, that's a little...
Well, she's so arrogant. It just again shows her take no prisoners.
But it's a
arrogance.
boring writing choice. I'm not taking issues with the character. The character can't be what except nothing that they but what they write on. What am I saying? The character can't be anything more than what they write her to be. My issue is with the writers.
Mm-hmm. All right. I of course fear for Will and Vera, but they've already been in danger for some time now. This is just another new threat, and perhaps Lou's mistake was telling Mari.
More on Mari in a second. David says, this is Kate at her most terrifying. Well, I think he meant Lou. You can see she means every word. Lou Unleashed may well be Wentworth's most dangerous top dog yet. Everyone will pay for her suffering, top to bottom. Only Rita stands in her way. And the interesting thing about Rita, because Lou has now taken her fight to the staff. And let me open by what Rachel says. And she says, Rita has always been the one character who lies between the inmates and the staff. She's truly neither one or the other. This is what allows Rita's sense of justice to stay intact. She will never be bound by inmates' rules of conduct dictated by a top dog. This puts Rita in constant danger. On the other hand, we also see when she comes in the interesting and kind of beautiful connection that she has with the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Will is very, tell me what I can do to help. Vera, let's not forget what happened last season when they bonded together in the hospital.
I did forget.
Right, they have a special bond, Vera and Rita, and I can definitely see Rita perhaps teaming up with Joan, doing whatever she can to protect Vera. So
yes, and Vera also, Rita didn't come in as a criminal.
And also, no, she did come in as a criminal. They didn't know she was undercover, but
Vera,
now they know.
Yes, exactly. Right. So Vera knows that she is not a common crim.
That's right. So they have more respect for her, and if Rita, tried to get top dog, they would definitely support her.
Absolutely.
Robin?
After what Lou did to Boomer, I think Rita will knock her down a few pegs and welcome her to country. I do hope Ruby gets her parole, but that leaves me wondering what Rita's fate will be with Ruby out of the system. She will have met her father's wish to take care of Ruby, but that leaves her alone in the system. I think Top Dog would be a better use of her energy than nothing at all.
So Rita, this episode, is having a kind of an identity crisis. She's even wearing the teal for 5.5 seconds. Mm-hmm. And as I said, she was largely benched this episode. But that's, I guess, to be expected. She was broken. But actually, her recovery was quite fast.
I loved that. I loved her
putting her civvies back,
jacket back on. That was like she was ready for a fight. That was her throwing down the gauntlet.
Yes. And actually, though, I feel that this episode, almost her only... Besides kind of Lou getting to know that she's there and understanding that she has somebody, that she needs to contend with, the person who really was affected by Rita's coming in and whose story was more pivotal in Rita's orbit was Mari, who you find to be awfully confusing at the moment, and your remarks were all very confused. And what the hell is going on with Mari? I'm not sure. So
but
let's start. Always, let's start with all of your comments, Lauren.
I'm still finding Mari a little confusing. Telling Lou she had to watch out for Rita, and therefore Lou arranged for Rita's urine sample to be switched with the henchman's, resulting in Rita's punishment. Then Mari goes and backs Will, despite being offered a transfer out of the prison, which she obviously really wanted. Will saving her life and being a good man seems to win over Mari's decisions in this. It seems Mari teeters, reading out loud, me. It seems Mari...
By the way, the fact that I'm not yawning too is not because I'm a psychopath, it's because I have the ability to control yawning. And
that reminds me of my friend's book, that I'm reading about the special ability not to sneeze. Long story.
Long story. That I barely have. Okay.
It seems Mari teeters on the side of doing right, but dabbles on the wrong side with Lou as well. She's already been involved in 2 deaths this season and made trouble for Rita with Lou. Then she also has this weirdly comforting type relationship with Joan. Although it seems Joan feels she needs Mari more than Mari feels she needs Joan.
Or Kath in this instance.
Yeah. Mari's relationship with Lou seems to be feeling empathy for the loss of Reb, but she is still fucked up.
But it is still fucked up.
Oh, but it's still fucked up. I mean, she wanted to kill her. Also, Mari is the one who calls the screw-in after the laundry fight, helping Boomer.
And actually, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but they did zoom in on Mari's face during the fight, and I was wondering why. I don't know if this is what they were trying to say, but actually, if something had happened to Boomer, it would have also been on Mari, because Lou would have never been fighting for top dog if she hadn't set the whole thing in motion. So that would have been another dead body on her conscience.
Mari never expected Reb to die.
No, but guess what? When you poke psychopaths
you poke
or
the bear,
crazy people,
right.
you never know. They're not going to just do what you want them to do. They're going to do what they want to do. David says, warning Lou against Rita took me by surprise. Is this a genuine hatred for Rita that informed the decision? Or is it an act of self-preservation against Lou's wrath? I think we're all confused, David. Kathy?
Mari still hasn't learned after her previous actions backfired.
That is really the key
Yes.
Yes.
And she's smart.
Again, maybe self-preservation? I don't know. I mean, Rita does give her that weird hissing face. What was that about? It was very funny.
But Ruby told her she's not trying to kill her anymore.
Well, I mean, I understand if she doesn't just take her at her word, but still.
Now she's set her sights on targeting Rita. Oh my God.
What is going on?
You know, sometimes when I read out loud,
you're making it very hard for me to contain my yawning.
I'm sorry. So she is trying to put it in Lou's head that Rita is the one she needs to look out for. Rita's ready for it, and this week's episode was a setup to the big fight that's coming. I can't wait.
By the way, I did tell you that I saw a bond between Mari and Lou forming last episode.
You did.
Go ahead.
Oh,
that's it. Okay. Jane says,
I could make something up.
Jane says, Mari is a nice catalyst for Lou to explore and express her feelings. They're delicious scene partners, as are her and Joan. However, these moments of Lou will never be explored since they seem to have committed her to being a one-note monster. Another waste of a great actor. I'm still unsure where Mari is going. Her purpose this episode seemed to set up the Lou-Rita relationship, and that is it. And that could be what it all is really boiled down to. Rachel?
Well, it's a shame. You shouldn't sacrifice characters. You should figure out a way to make it all work.
And how often have we said that?
Rather than have them be sacrificial lambs to the story.
And how often have we said that?
Story comes
in the
out
last
of character.
4 years.
Character is not sacrificed on the altar of story.
She said while yawning. Rachel?
Mari hears Joan loud and clear. I think it's pretty clear she'll try to do what she can to take Lou out. This is a character they have tried to redeem. She has abandoned her ideas about killing Ruby. She tried to take out Lou. She lied to protect Will at great cost to herself. She had a chance to get out of the mess she has helped create, and she didn't take it. I think Mari is aware of exactly who Anne is and knows the promises Anne makes are worth nothing.
Which is exactly what we said. I want this in writing, and I still don't believe it.
Exactly. Mari knows a manipulator when she sees one. I find Mari's past actions beyond redemption. She is a deeply flawed woman who now believes she can continue to use the tactics she has always used for her own benefit, in the benefit of others. It won't work, and Mari will be the cause of her own undoing.
Right, so I think the reason that we're all so confused about Mari is because we're not quite sure. I mean, she genuinely, I think, is kind of horrified by recent events, and especially since she did set out to redeem herself, to have caused more people to die, but she thought maybe she was killing the one person that she thought was justified to kill, which is Lou, and then everything else went to hell. And, okay, so, but in that case, why are you doing this again? Why are you telling Lou about Rita?
It's
why
baffling. Why is
yes,
she?
I don't understand that. Unless, again, to serve story.
Again, to serve story, yes. So that Rita wouldn't get in the way, and so Lou would be topped off.
Right. Oh, no. And then for Lou to know, to set up this rivalry.
Oh.
So that, because we know ultimately Lou and Rita have to clash. We know that has to happen.
It's called the Clash of the Titans.
Yeah, we only said that 500 times about 500 different Titans.
Release the Kraken!
We've said that too. That's why I think it's confusing. If at some point they clarify it, that's great. If not, then again, they sacrificed character cohesive consistency in the sake of story. David
says.
I'm sorry, David, we always do this. I'm so sorry.
And it's not even your accent.
I
know. Joan cares for Mari. And
I'm so sorry, David. We love you, David.
We do.
Go ahead.
Joan cares for Mari, and my heart broke for Joan when she said she would miss Mari if she wasn't there with her. It's such a brilliant and left-field concept to have two of the show's biggest villains being the emotional anchor for me. Both have behaved despicably, but at this very moment, I care more about their well-being than the protagonists. It's genius writing.
And this is what I was saying in the beginning when David was talking about give me a nice night around the fire with the family. I have found in this episode a lot more emotional fulfillment and reward out of these two together than seeing, Ruby, Judy, Allie, and Boomer together in their family unit.
Yeah.
That did nothing to me except
because it wasn't interesting.
No, and because I hate Judy.
Judy is such an interloper. We know that she's.
I was about to say, don't get us started, and we'll get started on those two in a minute. But the interaction between Joan and Mari is very fascinating.
Yes, it is.
Especially because it's Kath and Mari.
Yes, I didn't remember. My beautiful, intelligent wife reminded me that Mari never knew Joan.
Right. She never met Joan. She heard stories about her, but she never met her.
So Kath is
I'm
really
pretty
the
sure,
only.
Right?
Well, if you say so.
I don't think Mari was. I don't think Mari was in the prison when Joan.
It sort of seems to me that she was.
No, because that year that Frankie was still there because they did the whole escape from prison in the. Those things that they built, and that's when they got Joan out and buried her alive. Mari wasn't there yet. I don't think Mari was there yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't watched and rewatched all the season as you do. Okay, so where was I? Right, Ferguson and Vera and Jake. So Ferguson is beginning to use new words to describe her feelings: regret, guilt. She even cries a little tear.
That was good.
First of all, Pamela
Out of
Rabe.
one little eye.
Pamela Rabe. Pamela Rabe. It's a rave. Fantastic. Now, I had the feeling when we were watching that she was being genuine. I felt like she really wanted to understand herself. I felt that Dr. Miller, for a change, was actually helping, and she was engaging with, because she was, I saw her kind of being curious, almost like as an explorer in her own psyche, trying to figure out, now, I might be a dupe, but I also think, again, from a dramatic point of view, that it would be a much more interesting story.
Much more interesting.
So that's the one that I'm leaning toward.
And also when she said it was quieter.
Yeah, but that was the last episode.
That was such, I know. That was, to me, the key to her realization that
right. It's not because she wants to be.
It might be worth it for her to explore, to try to connect to those genuine feelings, rather than have the constant chaos in her mind.
Right, and also I think that this understanding how she feels about Vera, or trying to understand how she feels about Vera, and the possibility, the so far remote possibility of a human connection with somebody, so far, and especially maybe with the drug helping a little bit, so far is enough to carry her on from one day to the next. But I think it might not take too much to flip her, especially because of events that we'll be talking about right now. So let's start with Denise.
I honestly think Ferguson is playing Miller.
Also a possibility, very valid one. I hope it's not the one.
Me too. I believe she's getting off on fooling Dr. Dumbfuck. Ferguson has always loved being in control and having control over her enemies. This is her way of feeling that power and giving herself time to plan her next move. Ferguson wants to believe that everything she does affects the others like chess pieces.
Again, so totally credible. I just hope not.
Yeah, it's not the way I'm choosing to watch it because it's not what I'm hoping for. And you may be totally right. And it's going to be, to me, it's so much less interesting.
Yeah.
But such a big possibility.
Yeah. Rachel?
When the results come back, will Joan have to go cold turkey? This resulted in a psychotic episode for Liz. We'll see. Will Miller simply be fired and gone? Or will he be the first victim of Joan's return? I'm hoping for the latter.
Well, I don't know about Miller, but hold on. Lauren says, I can't help but feel Miller's encouragement of Joan to stay in the uncomfortable feelings, like being rejected or not coping with Lou crying, is dangerous. Isn't Joan more likely to do something crazy if she does care for someone else? Revenge style? I mean, that's the trajectory we're all supposed to believe she is on with Jake. So it might be that the combination of now that they're going to find this in her, I mean, they found something in her urine, they're going to analyze it, they're going to somehow come to understand that Miller has been giving her the drug, and they're going to stop using the drug on her, and in the combination with all the work she's been doing, which maybe she could bear a little bit more with the help of the drug. I don't know that that's actually scientifically correct, but in Wentworth's world it might be. Maybe all together there will be some sort of a break.
I want her to be better. I want her to be the new
Kath
Joan.
In her mind, I mean, we could all see like the big X on Jake's back, right? As he was walking away after yelling at Vera in front of, by happenstance, Joan just coming through the hall, just being in the neighborhood. So in her mind, that would be the ultimate way to connect to Vera, right? What does Kathy have to say?
Kathy says, does Joan really remember all the things she did to Vera, and is she truly remorseful? She did some really awful things. If she does remember, how could she really believe that Vera would forgive her? Maybe she believes that killing the monster she created, Jake, would be the ultimate gift to Vera. I think she's just looking for a friend. Poor Joan. Don't you just want to hug her?
Robin?
I think Vera's outburst about never letting Jake take Grace away from her will make Joan associated with Will taking Shane away from Gianna. Ooh,
yeah.
That is
I think actually several people.
It's a very interesting road to have come back to.
Several people have raised that connection. Yeah.
She looked determined to not let that happen again on her watch. She couldn't save Gianna's baby, but she will do what she can to save Vera's. I'm pretty sure she sees Jake as dispensable.
As do we
all. I was just about to say that. As do we all, and have for a very long time.
Denise says, now it seems Ferguson is going to take Jake out so Vera doesn't have a threat of losing Grace. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that. There was a time where I wanted Jake to eat shit and die. But I'm less dramatic about that right now. Less dramatic, but maybe you don't mind that
You're kinder
much.
and gentler.
Rachel says, I know they've tried to redeem Jake, but I want to see him go. I know it's heartless of me, but I believe he's a coward, and that to me is the lowest form of life. Vera can find another father figure for Grace.
Well, especially since she doesn't seem to let him near her or do anything.
Exactly, he's
offering to help.
And Jane says, Vera seems to be set up for the death of Jake. Don't tell me she gets accused.
Oh, no.
That would be a little much. David says,
Jake has taken his eyes off the spider when it comes to Ferguson. He's no longer intimidated by her and finds her more of a nuisance and an irritant. Big mistake, Jakey Cakes. His blasé attitude towards her will be his undoing. Prediction. Nanny Eve Wilder is
Nanny Eve. Yes, I like her. That Nanny Eve. It sounds like a little lullaby. Yes.
Don't be lulled by it. Is a character that is said to have a past with Joan. I can see that once Miller stops her medication, Joan will exploit Eve to kill Jake for her. I think he will meet his end at Eve's hands, but at Joan's instruction.
Well, that is one option. However, hold on one second. Robin says, it's so hard to guess at what's next without knowing what Eve Wilder will bring to the table and what will happen to Joan without her meds. I don't know, because we do see in that little video on YouTube that Jake and Eve get closer. And if Joan and Eve have history already, that's not so great. And if Joan is on Team Vera and if Eve is on Team Jake, then Eve and Joan could have reason to clash. And that seems like that could be another clash of the Titans.
You lost me.
This is going to be so busy. This prison is going to be so busy. I don't know how they'll have time for Vera's new market gardening. Market what? What was
She's
that
making a garden to sell vegetables.
But Sonia already came up with a
the
garden.
local
markets.
the local farmers market.
Was it a market Oh, maybe it was a marketing something. I don't know.
No, a market garden usually means that you're growing to sell. I don't know.
Well, Sonia already invented the idea of a garden, but that wasn't to sell.
That was the baskets. Yes, it was. It was a business.
That's right. That's right.
Of course, that's why they had the boxes.
That's right. So not that original, Vera. But again, that was kind of a throwaway line. I barely even noticed it, but we were supposed to notice it. So.
Yes.
What I find interesting is that, as we've mentioned before, the fact that they've been given 2 more years allowed them to take Joan to entirely different places to where they were going to end up with if they had really ended in season 7.
I'm grateful.
Right. So I'm wondering just how much more will be different from their original intent, how to end the show at season 7, as to how to end the show in season 9, because. Definitely, just Joan alone, what's going on with her is already changing the show entirely and opened it up to so many possibilities that they didn't have by the end of season 7. So that's very cool, actually.
Oh yeah, I mean it opened up a world. Those 2 seasons.
Well, and then
made a huge difference.
Course, the ability to bring in Kate Box and all that stuff. So. Okay, now I saved these to the ends because like the 2 storylines that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody likes Smiles. Let's start with Smiles. And Jane says,
I'm getting angrier by the week at how wasted Jackie Brennan is. I didn't count exactly, but she uttered about 10 words, plus or minus 3. Do odd sneers and ticks count as words? No.
Right. And Robin says, I wonder how Anne will respond to the useless lead Miles gave her regarding Will and Mari. That was a sweet retreat they both made under questioning, making Anne look like an idiot. Not good for Linda's future as governor. I wonder if Miles will retaliate in some way.
I love...
You know how much we love... Watch the interview.
Jackie and Smiles. I think she's always had enormous potential that was never... but I don't see Smiles as ever being governor.
I don't even care
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine such a thing.
You know what? In the old days when all she was a gambler, but she still had a heart and she still had a smile... I could see her rise to the challenge. I could see actually, sometimes people just need to be given the opportunity to shine. And I actually think that as Kathy pointed out last week, that she does have what it takes. But she's always been relegated to just opening doors, as Jackie Brennan has been relegated to. So,
what a waste.
But now that they've made her into this, again, one-note character, which seems to be a pattern and a trend, I'm like, what a waste. And especially it's a waste because we spent 7 years crying and begging for you to give us more Smiles. Okay? We didn't just mean give us more of the character. We meant she is the thing that alleviates so much of the darkness. She deserves to have more to do. So what do you do with her? You turn her into a character we should hate? Okay, now to the story that we really, 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 really don't want. Allie and Judy. Or as Robin points out, their squish name is Julie. I'm so sorry, Julie.
Oh, gosh.
Anyone who's named Julie out there, I'm so sorry. Denise?
Allie is back to being a supporting character for someone else's storyline. She says WTF, question mark, question mark, question mark. But I say, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Oh, that felt good.
Jane says, Allie better be faking her amnesia of who stabbed her because the alternative is keeping her a dumbass. If this plays out as it seems it will be on the list... Sorry. If this plays out as is, this will be on the list of most failed characters. Another waste. So again, if we're talking about how they ended season 7 and then what happened with 2 more episodes, with 2 more seasons, what they had a chance to do, they ended season 7 with Allie being a hero in the siege. So what did they decide to go and do? Is say, we gave her too much credit. Let's take her down again.
And they don't really like her that much out there.
What the
fuck? I have a little thing that I want to say that I...
Wait, about Judy?
Mm-hmm.
Right before you go there, Rachel says, I will mention that when Allie first returned from the hospital, she said her spinal nerves were damaged, not severed.
Right.
I think that might be a clue to what we might see from Allie in the end. So Rachel is thinking maybe this is not, but again, she would have to go through so much physical therapy, so much rehab. How many years are gonna have in this just one season? I'm not sure.
Well, it could just be her at a particular time.
Managing to do.
Exactly, like mothers pick up cars and...
Yes, but mothers pick up cars, but not mothers who are paralyzed.
Well, but anyway, the thing that can I say the thing I want to say?
Yes, because I know where you're going to go.
Yeah, I noticed, and I'm sure you all did too, because you
Yes.
all noticed everything.
Yes.
When Allie and Judy were talking, and Allie
They were the lawyers.
at the lawyers, and Allie lied for her, but said that they really were, and she was so kind to her. I noticed a look that Judy gave her of sort of caring about her, really, all of a sudden, or being surprised.
It was either caring or being surprised or being appreciative, maybe being appreciative.
But it was just sort of like...
Was that genuine? Was that empathy?
Yes,
that...
I think she was somehow moved by that, and I think she might develop feelings for Allie.
Well, so several of you in the past have said that Judy was just a petulant brat who's, rebelling against her father still and all that stuff.
She's worse than that.
Yeah, well, again, this is why I never go into these debates of who is a true psychopath and who isn't, because ultimately, first of all, it doesn't even matter. This is Wentworth. They can do whatever they want, and oftentimes, as Rachel says, they cheat. So it doesn't even matter. But so in this case, it could mean several things. They could be just throwing us off. It could mean that they're going to take them down a road of a love romance. Now, some of you said...
Oh, no, I don't want that.
I was actually quite pleasantly surprised when she was up front with Allie at the get-go and basically told her agenda right from the start. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
That's a step forward.
Right, but many of you actually... speculated that it was more for kind of expediency, because having her seduce Allie, having them develop a whole romance, that would have been longer. And thank goodness they spared us.
It was much smarter just telling her and having Allie.
Well, nobody said smarter in terms of the character. They were saying the writers needed this to happen much faster.
The story, yeah.
Right. And I don't want to see a romance between them, but it could be that what they're doing now is saying, well, now that it will come at it from the other end. She said she was authentic with her. She told her what her agenda was. But now seeing Allie being so supportive and so, playing along. And actually, Allie afterwards, when they fill out the forms and stuff, Allie said she meant it.
Yeah.
I don't know why she would mean it.
That freaked me out.
Then maybe they're saying, well, now they're going to go on this real romantic... Who wants to see that?
No one wants to see that. And then Allie
is going to find out.
That Judy...
Although I don't know how she will ever find out. Nobody was there. There were no witnesses. Unless Lou saw Judy leave the showers before she came in. That's the only way. Because we know she moved the camera probably, right? So...
well, I think that it's going to come out.
And by the way, I don't know. Is there no point in which when somebody turns the camera can see them as they're turning the camera?
Well, not only that, Vera has been constantly looking at those cameras.
Since Joan's arrival.
You would think that... And anyway, what good is a security camera if you don't watch them? And if you watch them, what...
If you watch them, then you'll see, wait, somebody moved the camera. Go there, go.
Yes, that's, something's going down.
Especially after, wait a second, this has been 9 years. How many people got murdered or maimed while cameras were moved?
It's just the stupidest, it's the stupidest trope.
I'm throwing a challenge, okay? If we get all the episodes, all the Talking Teal vlogs funded, then of course we will have a party, and this is going to be the big finale party. We're going to, have to make a big party out of it, okay? So you're going to have to do a lot of contributions, a lot of creative. That too. A lot of creative contributions. Start thinking about it now.
Think about your dance.
Yes, Jane. My challenge is this. I want somebody to do a creative tribute to the cameras of Wentworth for the party. Please. Anybody is willing to do that?
Not me.
No, well, I would, but no, I can't physically do that. So one of you will do that, right? If you are taking it on, email me and let me know, because I'll be on you.
You know, before when people in real, you know, in shows where it really means something, they either do a loop so that people can't tell that they've done something to the cameras. You know, they get in there, they
Well, they
tape a
can,
loop.
though. This is too much
No,
for
of
them to
course
go into the
not.
security system. In real life, there are, as we've said many times, there are new cameras.
Yes, and
that are small. They're flat. You can't intervene. The most you can do is spray
them. Right.
Right. But still, this would have worked the first time, the second time, maybe the third time. By the fourth
27 times? No.
And again, as Jane said, you're so intent to stop people from doing all crazy shit around. Why don't you just bring in a new security camera system, and that would solve all your... See,
it wouldn't solve them all, but it would certainly solve a lot.
This is an issue I will never get over.
No.
And this is something that truly, truly is a thorn in the ass of Wentworth's greatness.
And at this point, I feel the writers know it.
Of course they know it.
And they're just playing with us now.
I don't think they're playing with us.
I think they
Why
are
would
playing
they be playing
with us.
This is a serious show that is supposed to be taking itself seriously.
I think it's
Don't
just
play
an
with us.
Easter egg.
No, it should not. It's not an Easter egg.
It's a poisoned Easter egg.
No, an Easter egg is something that you do as a wink to audiences. You don't kill characters based on an Easter egg that is a joke. You just don't do that. If that's what you do, then you're not taking yourself seriously, and why should we? And we actually do take it seriously.
I just can't believe that they would do this without knowingly know.
They knowingly know.
Knowingly know
they
how
just
we
choose
feel
to
about
still
it.
use it as the easiest.
Because it's so expedient?
Easiest plot device, yes. And that is why I think that takes Wentworth from here to here. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, you know, there are a lot of other things that we mentioned, but this is the easiest, laziest of them all.
Right.
In conclusion.
I mean, for a great show to do something that
time after time after time after time after time after time. How many?
Who lost count?
Exactly. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Talking Teal. We had fun. We hope you did too.
We hope you did. We hope you managed to follow along.
And we'll see you again next week. We can't wait for your emails. Please, on time. And let's see what happens when Eve Wilder enters the prison. Bye.
Bye.